Welcome to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. I am your host, Marco Buenrostro, and every week I'm here with the top industry experts, amazing clients, and all my vendor BFFs to bring you the best tips, advice, and juicy behind-the-scenes stories to make wedding and event planning a breeze. So grab your favorite drink and let's get this party started! Hey guys, welcome back to the Tipsy Guest. I am Marco, your host, and today we're going to be talking about invitations, RSVP, and wedding guest list. We want to know everything about it, and we have one of the best for this topic, Shawna Jackson from Savvy Southern Events. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for coming in today. I am very excited about this topic because I feel like this is where the drama happens.
All the drama.
I feel like, if you sit down and talk about the entire process of a wedding, when it comes to the guest list, that's where it gets a little bit tricky with everyone. Some people, I guess, like one side of the groom, wants to invite certain people, then the bride wants to invite the other half, and then they don't agree on things. So I want to hear everything you have to say about this. First, let's talk about you. I want you to tell our listeners what you do, how long you've been in business. Tell us everything about you and your business.
Well, first off, you already said it. My name is Shawna Jackson. I own Savvy Southern Events. I actually got into the wedding industry when I was 18 years old. I was going to college at Incarnate Word, getting my bachelor's in nursing, and I actually got in a car accident, and I was bartending at the time. I dislocated my shoulder, hurt my shoulder really bad, ended up working for a catering company doing behind-the-scenes work, a lot of paperwork, and then kind of went from there. And when my shoulder got healed, I was like, oh, can I get back into bartending for weddings? And started bartending weddings, and I realized back in the day, like I'm so old,
Right.
back in the day, a lot of people did not have, I guess, a coordinator. So with my A-type personality, I was like, okay, you guys need to go here, you guys need to go here, you guys need to go here, and then I'm running back to the bar to do what I needed to do. And then the catering company I worked for at the time actually was like, hey, we're going to use you as a coordinator for upcoming events. And honestly, it kind of just started from there. And then after I graduated college, I went ahead and kind of did it on the side for a while. And about 7 years ago, I decided to open up my own business, and it just flourished. God has truly blessed me. It just flourished, and I absolutely love what I do. I love interacting with my brides and my clients. Honestly, a lot of them become some of my really good friends. And I know that everyone always makes that comment, don't be friends with your clients. I'm like, but I get to be part of their love story and be like the main part of their love story. And it's just so fun to watch them just flourish. And then if I follow them on social media, have babies afterwards and everything like that. Luckily, I have not had to do a client twice.
I have.
I was like, luckily, I haven't run into any of those yet. But
if if it ever comes, I'm sure it'll be as fun as the first time.
I hope. I just pray that never happens to me.
Oh my goodness. Well, I like the way how you described it. I mean, I think that is the perfect way when you build that relationship with your client, and then you eventually, go on to become friends. Because that's the thing. You do spend a lot of time with them as a planner. I mean, for you, normally, how long is the whole process from the moment they hire you to the wedding date?
So it just all depends on the package they kind of get. I have a lot of brides in San Antonio that like to try to do a lot of the planning themselves. And so they usually just hire me for, it's called my wedding management package, which usually starts about 8 weeks before their big day. Obviously beforehand, I will kind of contact them and all that stuff. I'm not one of those people that, pay per phone call or anything like that. I'm an open book. So if they have a question before that 8 weeks, obviously they're more than welcome to call or text me. But starting about 8 weeks, I'm like calling and texting them every day, making sure everything is good, making sure everything is like up to par, all that stuff, making sure that their nerves are great.
Yeah.
And then I have a partial planning package, and then I have a full planning package, which I like to call myself pretty much their wedding best friend.
I love it.
I'm like their best friend for hire. I'm like, no, literally me and you are going to be holding hands. I'm going to know your favorite color by the end of all of this. I'm going to know what kind of food you like. I was like, because we get down into the details. My job is to make their vision come true. And I think I've had a client hire me 3 years in advance.
Wow.
I had multiple clients hire me before they were even engaged.
I love that. I've had that happen to me as well. I guess I don't know. I do a lot of like open houses and then the wedding expos, the wedding shows. So a lot of the times you get to see these people over and over again, depending on how long they're planning their wedding. But it happened to me one time where, I was at a wedding expo, and then, somebody walked up to our booth and they used the photo booth. The bride ended up hiring me, but then also she was with her best friend. And I guess she loved the photo booth, and we got along really well. And she told me, the best friend, she was like, you know what, Marco, I'm going to hire you guys for my wedding. She's like, I'm not even engaged. She's like, I don't even have, I'm not engaged. So, but I know I'm going to hire you for my wedding. I really, really like what you do.
Did she at least have a significant other?
She did.
Okay.
She did. So a few years later, she reached out and she was like, hey, Marco, guess what? She's like, I just got engaged. I don't have any vendor. She's like, I don't even have a venue yet. I have a wedding date, and you're gonna be my first vendor that I hire. And I was like, girl, thank you. I was like, that's pretty cool, because normally for us, for the photo booth, we're normally like the last thing they end up getting. We're like almost like, at the very bottom of the list. But for her to tell me that I was the first vendor, because she had, 2 years prior to that, she knew she wanted us. She was like, I want to make sure that you're available. I want to secure you, and then I'll figure out the rest for my wedding. So that's was one of my
an honor.
That was, yeah. Like I always, talk about that. It's such a cool experience. I love what I do, and when I hear things like that from clients, I'm like, yes, we're doing something right.
That is such an honor.
Yeah. So for you to know, for you to do that with your clients, just the way you're talking about it, it sounds like you are so good at what you do and that you build that connection. So I am really excited to talk to you today, because I feel like we came to the right place with you.
Well, thank you so much. Honestly, I love all my clients, and like I said, they do become my best friends, and I love following them. I'm kind of weird. I like to stalk them, like I said, on Facebook and Instagram.
You have to get to know them.
Exactly.
You have to get to know them, and it's good that you do that. Like, for example, with me, same thing. I know that when I'm very active on social media. So when I notice that somebody follows me, I'd like to go to their profile and see, okay, so is this a potential bride? Is she already married and maybe she's looking for somebody else? Or is it for a corporate event? Like, what do they want? Like, why did they follow me? And yeah, like most of the time, I click on their profile, and the first thing I see, the pin on their feed.
It's a wedding ring.
Yeah, it's a wedding ring. So I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe she likes us. She might be interested. So, of course, I'm not going to stalk them and send them a message and be like, hey, girl, I saw you followed me. Do you want to hire me? I never do that. But, I go and like some of their posts, especially, the ones that have to do with their engagements, or, just like cool photos where it's both of them. I'm like, I want to give them those little hints that I'm looking, that I'm watching them. And
like,
then
hey,
eventually,
I'm here. I see
you. Yeah. And then eventually, we get that inquiry, from the website, or they send us a DM and they're like, hey, we really like what you do, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I know, girl, I know.
You're like, oh, really?
Right? Pretend to be shocked. But yeah, it's always cool to get to know your client, because then you can always make like little comments to them that it makes them feel like you've done your homework. Like if they, I don't know, she got engaged in Paris, so when she reaches out, she's like, hey, I noticed you got engaged in Paris. I love your photos, or blah blah blah. Without sounding like a stalker. It's more like, giving them like little compliments. I think that's a great way to go about, making that first connection with your potential clients.
Oh, 100%. You are spot on.
Yeah. But all right, girl. So let's talk about wedding guest. To me, I feel like that is the most dramatic part of a wedding. So what do you think is the first step when you're trying to build the wedding guest list? How would you get started with that?
Honestly, your first step is to look at your budget. Can you afford to invite 300 people to your wedding, or is it going to be one of those small intimate weddings where you invite 15? Either way, it's going to be beautiful, but look at your budget. You're looking for catering costs at least, I'm saying at least $50 per person. It can definitely go up from there, depending on what kind of type of food you're wanting and everything. So can your budget allow you to have everyone you want there? I mean, having 15 people at your wedding is still going to be a beautiful wedding. It's about you and your significant other getting married and all that stuff. But yes, that is the biggest thing is budget, seeing who you can afford and how much people you can afford and everything like that. And honestly, venue. How much can your venue hold? If you pick a smaller venue, obviously you're not going to have 300 people there. If you pick a huge venue, you don't want just 15 people in this huge spot.
Exactly.
So venue and budget, honestly, I would say that were the first two. And then after that, you're going to set up your guest list, like an A list and a B list. The A list are people, I would say, your wedding party, your close family. I mean, we're in San Antonio. Everyone's related to everybody.
Everyone.
Everyone has an aunt and uncle everywhere. So family, wedding party, your close friends, like not a friend of a friend of a friend, your close friends, the people that you've actually grown up with. And then this is a hit or miss, but coworkers, I know a lot of people like to invite their coworkers, and it's honestly, if you've been at that business for a while, those coworkers do become friends and pretty much family. So that would be on your A list. Your B list are like extended family. These are people that if your A list can't make, that you kind of bring them on. Extended family, people like, I guess like your friend of a friend, not your friend of a friend of a friend. Those people are not invited. Like a friend of a friend or people that you kind of know and all that stuff. And then, I guess you would say, oh my goodness, what is that word? Like fellow vendors or anything like that. Like your co-working vendors, people that I guess you know from the industry.
Yeah.
Your network. There you go. Kind of go from there. But definitely like your B list is your backup list. Your A list should just be people that you actually want to know and you actually like to celebrate with. People that I always tell people, this is not a family reunion. This is your wedding. So if you have an uncle there that you hardly talk to, and he hardly talks to you, don't invite him.
Why even have him? Yeah.
I'm like, don't feel bad about it either. And then also don't feel bad if you do not want kids at your wedding.
I thought that was going to be one of my questions. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I guess, yeah, like kids, that is a very interesting topic because, some people get offended if, like if you say like, oh, well, no kids. And then they're like, well, I'm not going to your wedding then, blah, blah, blah. Like, how do you think that adds stress to the couple, like making that decision if they want kids or not? Or do you think they stick to their guns and they're like, nope, mine is going to be no kids and no kids at all?
So honestly, I think it adds a lot of stress. And I found being in the years, I found a really good way to put it onto your invitation, which sounds very classy and everything like that. I'll talk about that later. But honestly, can I tell you something funny?
Yeah, of course.
So me and my husband actually got married 7 years ago. It's been a while. 7 years ago. And I have a daughter from a previous relationship. My own kids were not even invited to my wedding. So after
my gosh.
She was the flower girl. After my ceremony, I was like, okay, you're going home with a sitter. Mommy wants to party.
I cannot. How old was she?
She was 5.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's one of those things. I feel like you should make a wedding a date night for you and your spouse. Unless, like, this person is, like, I know it's kind of hard for out-of-town guests and everything to find a babysitter for a while. Actually, you know what I've been noticing a lot lately? They have wedding babysitters.
Okay. I've noticed. I've seen that. I did this wedding. It was a huge wedding, and they rented probably like 3 of the ballrooms at the venue, and then of course one was the main wedding. The other one was, I don't know what they had in there, but then one of the ballrooms that they rented, they turned it into almost like a daycare, I guess like a night care in this case, where they had all kinds of games and they had like different sitters and all the kids were there. Is that a thing? I mean, I've seen it once. I've seen it once, but is that something that's becoming popular?
It's becoming a thing, especially here in San Antonio in the Hill Country. We're actually being known as a destination wedding spot just because we are more affordable in the whole United States area to have a wedding. And honestly, the Hill Country is beautiful, great backdrop, and we have pretty good weather except for summer all year round.
Oh, yes.
Except for summer.
Let's not even talk about summer weddings.
So we're becoming a destination spot. So a lot of people are having to fly in, especially because we also are a military city. So they're flying in for a lot of these weddings, and they have to bring their kiddos along, especially if they're little babies. So I've been noticing a lot lately that they're starting to hire babysitters, like, and there's companies actually coming out about like wedding sitters and all that, which I think is a great concept, cool idea. So. Parents can still have their date night. If your kid's in the other room, still being watched, having fun. It's not like they're stuck with a random babysitter.
Yeah.
They're with their cousins too, or their friends, and I think it's a great concept. But honestly, having kids at a wedding, especially like Personally, I would not want someone to invite me and all my kids to a wedding. I'm like, you have me, my husband, which that's 2. Then I have 3 kids. That's 5. That's 5 mouths. Yep. I'm like, that is $300 worth of food just to feed me and my kids. I'm like, no, they can stay home. They can go enjoy themselves at home with a sitter or grandpa. And I was like, me and my husband love to go to weddings, enjoying date nights when we're actually invited and I'm not planning.
Yeah, no, that is true because, I mean, us as vendors, we go to weddings every weekend. But, I was just talking I can't even remember who I was talking to. And I was telling them, like, it's so weird. Like, we go to weddings every weekend. But I don't even remember the last time that I was actually a guest at a wedding. And the times that I am an actual guest, it feels weird because I want to do things. Like, I want to work. I'm like, it's sad to say, but we're so used to it that when, but yes, like you said, like you're there to have fun. So you don't want to have your kids with you.
Like, kids can be fun. You have your own fun with your kids, but honestly, a wedding is just, I feel like it's not a place for little kids.
Yeah.
I think the cutoff should maybe be like 16 years old.
Okay.
When they're old enough to and more mature enough and not at the complaining stage.
Yeah, no, especially because, I feel like they would get frustrated, and then all they're going to do is they're going to be running around the dance floor, running into people, or just being in the background of the videos or the photos, and it's a nightmare. We've seen it, and it's just crazy. So, to all of our listeners out there, do a no-kids wedding.
No kids. We love kids, but no kids.
Not for the wedding. But, okay, so going back to the A-list and the B-list. So, when it comes to the RSVP, so I guess, do you just kind of wait on the B-list and then you, I guess, make an exception? Like, once you start getting the RSVPs from your A-list, do you, I guess at this point, you start filling in those spots that said no, but do you still send an RSVP, I guess, for the B list, or is that more like a hey, you're just getting the invitation, or you just kind of like tell them like, hey, how does that work? I guess because I guess there's a cutoff time for RSVPs.
Yes.
But if you're using the B list as a backup, how does that play into the whole cutoff time for RSVPs?
Honestly, for the B list, it's one of those things like when you're going through your A list and Aunt Cheryl in Canada. You want to invite her. You're really close to her. She's on your A-list, but she's in Canada and she hates going on flights. So that's one of those things you kind of have to use your own mentality for. So, okay, I love Aunt Cheryl. Still going to send her an invite. Hopefully she sends a gift. Just kidding. Hopefully Aunt Cheryl, she's afraid of flights. She's not going to go fly from Canada to Texas. So it's one of those things you take off the A-list and, you put a B-list person in there. Most of the time they also say, let's say if you invite 100 people, they say 75% of those 100 people are going to RSVP yes. And then 90% of the people that RSVP yes are actually going to show up. So you might invite 100 people, but only 70 are actually going to show up, type of thing. So I always tell people to invite a little bit more. I know it's a little hard in San Antonio because everybody invites everybody. When I tell everyone to RSVP too, I always tell them to make an online RSVP. Because it's so much easier to track. Put the QR code on your invitation. They scan the QR code. They RSVP online. You know exactly who it is. And you can honestly put it where they can only RSVP for themselves. And if they're allowed a +1. You also do not have to give everyone a +1.
That was going to be my next question. I am so glad you touch into that. So before we go into the +1s, do you have any recommendations on a website or an online program for RSVPs?
Yes, honestly, I love using the Knot.
Okay.
And I love using Zola. So both of those are great. And then to capture addresses, both Zola and the Knot can capture addresses for you. And then there's another website called ineedyouradress.com.
Okay.
I always recommend those 3. And then what's pretty cool with the ineedyouradress.com is you can actually put it into a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet just click on a bunch of buttons, but you can actually print it out, all the addresses onto envelopes for you. So you're not having to handwrite all these envelopes. So everyone just puts in their address, you click on a bunch of buttons. It comes up with the envelopes, and you just put the envelopes in your printer, and then you could print it out. And it's not just standard print. You can make it pretty and pick your own font and everything.
Nice.
So you can actually get all that done, taken care of.
I love that. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes so that you guys out there, if you need those recommendations, they'll be listed there. And okay, so now going back to the +1. Who gets a +1? Like, I guess out of your A, I'm assuming the B list is not on the top of the list when it comes to +1s, but I guess you know more about this. Who gets one and who doesn't?
Honestly, anyone who's married obviously gets a +1. And if they're in a like engaged or a committed relationship, yes, they get a +1. We do not want your frat boyfriend from college bringing his fling for the summer to your wedding. We actually, this is a little personal note, and you're going to laugh about this. So in my own personal wedding video, in my actual wedding video too, oh my gosh, he's going to get so mad at me. I'm going to say this.
I love things like this. We love the drama here at the Tipsy Guest. So talk to me. Tell me everything about that.
So one of my husband's best friends, he actually, invited some girl that he met not that long ago, and they are dancing in our wedding video. Obviously, they're not a thing anymore. They were just a itty-bitty little thing for the time of our wedding, but they're not a thing anymore. And so every time we see our wedding video, I'm like, oh, look, they're dancing in the background.
That's hilarious.
And I feel bad for one day when he actually, gets married and everything. Like, that's not something his future wife's going to want to see in our wedding video. Like, oh, who's that girl? Oh, that was just his fling of the week.
The temp. I always love to use that word, the temp.
Yes.
I'm sure you watched this movie, but the Monster-in-Law with Jane Fonda and Jennifer Lopez.
Love that movie.
She's always calling Jennifer Lopez a temp. So every time we talk about something like this, I love using the word temp.
And it's so funny at weddings, it's always the in-laws. Everyone thinks there's a bridezilla. I'm like, no, I don't get bridezillas. I get monster-in-law-zillas.
Oh my gosh, yes. But have you ever had any drama with a situation like this when the the mother-in-law is always like trying to get involved?
Yes, and like I always get situations where like parents are trying to invite guests too. Like they want to invite their best friend from college or something like that, and I'm like, okay, well, that's another thing. Like, do you call that person? I know down here in San Antonio, we tend to call our parents' best friends aunt and uncle. Like, I was like, do you refer to them? Are they like, almost like family to you? Like, is your dad's best friend Ben? Is he Uncle Ben to you? Like, then you can invite him. If he's just Ben and you hardly hang out with him, he's not like there for social events or family events, we do not need to invite Ben.
Definitely not.
No.
I mean, you want to make sure that the people that are coming to your wedding are actual people that you, I guess, going back to the video, that you want to see when you watch your wedding video, when you watch your photos. Like, you want to make sure that you know every single person that's in the background. That like, you don't want just random people. And it sucks sometimes because it's so annoying when people like on Facebook or just through your network of friends, they make you feel uncomfortable by bringing it up and saying like, hey, are you inviting me to your wedding or blah blah blah. Like they bring up the conversation every single time like they talk to you just to pressure you into inviting them. Mm-hmm. That's really annoying.
I always tell my couples, I'm like, you honestly lay it onto the venue. Blame the venue. Say there's not enough capacity at the venue.
Yeah.
Or blame your mother-in-law. Be like, oh, I'm so sorry. My mother-in-law actually already invited X, Y, and Z, so it made me cut my list in half. Like, you can always pass the blame, even though it might not be the truth.
But they're never going to know.
Nope.
Well, I guess maybe after listening to this. No, but seriously, for example, us, like for me, that I'm a part of this huge Mexican family, Mexicans don't care about RSVPs. Mexicans don't care about, they always bring people. They always, like, this is horrible to say, but Mexicans don't care. Like, they will show up with the cousin,
the neighbor. Love a party.
Yeah, no, seriously. They show up with people. They show up with all kinds of, guests, and it's like, that's not a thing anymore. Like, maybe back in the day, yeah, it was okay to show up with all these random people, but now I feel like you have to be respectful of, the couple. They're the ones spending the money. Mm-hmm. Like you said, the venue has limitations. So what if, because of you bringing your neighbor and their kids and the cousin and the friend, then the night of the wedding, then they might get shut down because of all the extra people that you showed up with.
Or someone might be left without food.
Exactly. So please be respectful of of the wedding, the couple that if they're inviting you, just RSVP for whoever you're gonna RSVP for, and do not show up with extra people.
Amen.
All right, Shawna. Well, I think this was a great conversation. I mean, honestly, I feel like I keep saying it, but it's true. Like, I feel like the wedding guest list is probably the most stressful part of the whole planning, and I think our listeners today are gonna walk away with some good tips here. So thank you so much.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Time flew. It's time to wrap it up, but I want you to tell our listeners, where can they find you online?
Of course. So actually, you can find me online on multiple social media sites. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Just look up Savvy Southern Events. That's Savvy with 2 V's. Or my email address is info@savvysoutherneventssa.com. So, and also online, our website is savvysoutherneventssa.com. And you could always look me up personally also, just Shawna Jackson. Yeah, I love to interact and, make friends.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we're going to have you again, because tell our listeners also what other company you own.
Well, I'm actually a mobile spray tan artist. I am known as the bridal bronzer.
Ooh.
And actually got into that because I obviously have a lot of brides that needed spray tans. So I get to make everyone beautiful in bronze.
Awesome. Well, make sure that you stick around, because we will have her on a different episode to talk about tanning.
Ooh.
All right, guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Tipsy Guest podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from these tips, spread the love and share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Next round's on us. Same time, same place. Cheers! This podcast is brought to you by MVP Photo Booth, the #1 photo booth rental company in San Antonio, Austin, and Central Texas.